We are now a few weeks away from the ANC's 55th National Conference. It's taking place from the 16th until the 20th of December, where the party is now in that journey. It's nominated, that window closed last week. Provinces have consolidated their numbers, which is why if you are following this particular conference or the race to lead the ANC, you've probably come across different lists that have been doing the rounds via WhatsApp and social media. But where the process is, they're currently holding verification report meetings. Soon vetting of candidates who've met the threshold and can be on the ballot will take place. That, along with appeals, will simultaneously take place in the ANC, and then you have the list of those who've made it onto the ballot published. Those are the people who will then be contesting. But you must remember, there's still that loophole where people can be raised from the floor. Thus enters Paul Mashatile. Now, Paul Mashatile has dominated. Okay, I'm not even joking. Like, Paul Mashatile, when the provincial executive committees were pronouncing, undemocratically so, because they needed to actually wait on their branches, his name topped the list. Now, that was, whether you want to say it was to influence the branches or not, is almost neither here nor not, because the ANC did very little. Paul Mashatile's name dominated most lists, with provincial executive committees pronouncing mostly on Paul Mashatile as the chosen candidate to become deputy president. Now, that process in and of itself is problematic. You might have heard former ANC deputy president Kgalema Motlanthe pointing out that was undemocratic. It influenced the branches. Right or wrong, the cat had long bolted, the horse bolted, whatever it is, it's bolted. The point is that seemingly will result in Paul Mashatile topping the list of nominees for deputy president when the branches nominations are in. And I say that because we've seen the lists that are circulating, right? So the lists from KZN, again, these are not verified lists, so you find provinces distancing themselves from these lists. But Mashatile is there as DP. Mashatile comes up in Gauteng, it's his home province, no surprise there either. So it'll be interesting to see what ultimately happens when you get to this conference. And I say that because Paul Mashatile's name is also part of the conversation around who must become president of the ANC, right? So we'll be speaking about a two-horse race, a Zweli Mkhize versus a Cyril Ramaphosa. But what happens with Spokes, who has consolidated support across all provinces of the ANC? That's one of the issues that I think is out in the open. And he was out in the Northwest during the week, and he kind of said, well, you know, we'll see when we get there, but I'm not going to close that door or that window or that option should the branches at the conference raise his name from the floor. So this is a conference I've been saying for so long that you cannot necessarily read because these people are managing one another. So you don't actually know how it's going to go. Imagine what that does when Paul's name comes from the floor. Does he immediately take the conference? And those in his corner are of split minds from what I understand. There are those who say, no, now is not the time. There are those who believe that Phala Phala will be big enough a scandal as far as the different law enforcement agencies that are investigating to actually sink Ramaphosa in the new year. There are also those who say to Mashatile, it's now or never. Either you do this or risk even being a top 6 member. So it'll be very interesting what he does in terms of what he's looking at in the picture and what's best for Paul Mashatile. Obviously, those in his corner are also looking out for their own interest and what furthers their interest. The interesting thing for me is KZN. KZN backing Zweli Mkhize, again, I said earlier, not surprising. However, he's not finding expression elsewhere, and that's an issue. So what does KZN do? And I say this because there's a Dumseni Ntuli in the background, right? I said a few weeks ago, so I'm taking my L, that I think Dumseni might be a casualty because he didn't have the backing of his province. But what I think the province is starting to see is what I'm also starting to see, is that Dumseni Ntuli might amass enough support to make it onto the ballot. And if their presidential candidate is a non-starter, can KZN afford to not feature in the top 6? Imagine boasting that you are the biggest province, having all of that hubris, defining who and what you are, yet for a second time, you can't deliver an official from your province in the ANC's national structure. So there's a lot of thinking that I think the likes of Bheki Mtolo need to do. I think they need to go back to the drawing board, or they need to be having a lot of other conversations beyond Mkhize and his team, because I suspect whatever happens at national will have an impact on the picture as you see it across the different provinces. You know, they like to disband most of the ANC, so catch my drift, you know where I'm going. I think Asem Zandile Masina was interesting. This week I had a conversation with outgoing ANC national spokesperson on my podcast, Politricking with Tshidi Madia. You must find it, you must listen. So I had a conversation with Bule Mabe. What was interesting was Bule Mabe's complaints about the tools of the trade, saying that nowadays, when you speak to comrades, they say, oh, what's if Matulusi? Making an argument that money has never left the ANC's conference. So the practices, the vote buying, that continues to be part and parcel of how this party functions. The last province I think you need to watch out for is the Eastern Cape. Some have predicted that the Eastern Cape might be one of the biggest casualties of this conference, saying it's made some errors. That making Gwede Mantashe as national chair again is a mistake. That Pumula Maswale has not been able to amass the necessary support to bolster Zweli Mkhize. Yeah, you must take a close look at Zweli Mkhize's campaign. I'm also not convinced. Do I think he'll make a good leader? That's a conversation for another day. But going back to this, I do think that his campaign should be looking all round and trying to assess where things stand. But back to the Eastern Cape. I think that Oscar Mabuyane, who wanted to be deputy president of the ANC, might find expression in his home province, but nowhere else. And that calls for Oscar to start thinking out of the box and start approaching people that he would not have thought to be his close allies or friends. That might mean Oscar Mabuyane must now approach people he might not have considered to be his close allies or friends, because he needs to try and find a way to also find expression in that ANC top six. I think the one thing that's interesting or certain for me is the conference, the horse trading aspect of it, really. One thing that's clear to me is that by the time the ANC gets to Nazareth, expect lots and lots and lots, I mean like a heck of a lot, of side conversations on horse trading. Because as it stands, people like Paul Mashatile, who control so much, who have so much of a backing from the branches, are saying, no, let's get to conference and see. That's what the rumor mill says. But let's wait and see.